My name is Marc Moncion. I'm the HOS product owner as well as safety and compliance at Fleet Complete. So HOS is a regulation that is prescribed both in Canada and in the United States. It prescribes on-duty times, daily driving times, work shifts, cycles. It talks about having drivers get sufficient rest so that their circadian rhythms are up to speed so that they're alert behind the wheel, and also speaks to the variances between Canada and the United States. Essentially, drivers who operate commercial motor vehicles as defined in Part 395 of the U.S. rules must comply with the regulations. This includes interstate commerce between two states. If a vehicle has a gross weight or a weight rating of 10,001 pound, they must comply with the hours of service regulations. If you have drivers operating a vehicle that are transporting hazardous materials that require a placard, they must also comply with the hours of service rules. And also, Canadian drivers that are transporting goods into the United States must also comply with the U.S. rules. So as you can appreciate, when you have a Canadian driver who's allowed more flexible rules, they have to be very cognizant of the more restrictive rules in the United States. Otherwise, they could face severe penalties and out-of-service orders in the United States if they're not aware of those rule differences. In every rule, you have exemptions. In the case of the United States, one of the exemptions is a 100-mile radius rule. And that essentially is a driver who operates within the radius of 100 miles must return to his principal place of business within 12 hours and take the required time off. Another key feature is, despite the fact that the driver is exempt from completing a record of on-duty status, the carrier is now required to maintain accurate records. So you can appreciate how this hours of service solution that Fleet Complete offers could help these short haul operators, because it will provide accurate records that the carrier must now comply with. And there are several instances of short haul radius operators being charged for not having accurate records. The Driver Vehicle Inspection Regulations, or DVIR, as is commonly referred to in industry, are separate regulations from hours of service. In terms of the regulation, it is focused on Part 396 of the U.S. rules, and this speaks to pre-trip inspections of vehicles by drivers at the start of their workday, in-transit inspections when drivers find defects during the course of their day, and also post-trip inspections at the end of the road when they're back at their place of business. In terms of the Fleet Complete solution, the HOS model is actually branded and weaved in with driver vehicle inspections, so it's leveraged to combine both together. And the value is the fact that our DVIR process will allow drivers at roadside in transit to transmit information via our technology to the back office, to our maintenance portal, to the mechanics who can facilitate repairs of minor defects. And is also very useful in terms of scheduling vehicles for preventative maintenance. So it's a tremendous tool for that benefit. Fleet Complete program currently has 20 hours of service rules that are supported today in Canada and in the United States. Drivers can change their rules very quickly in terms of when they go into a different state. And also in our research and development side and working with the product department, we are updating these rule engines quite regularly as new and emerging regulations are proclaimed by Congress. And we are pushing out new versions to ensure that we are in tune and we're leveraging the needs of our customers going forward. There is significant impact on both drivers and carriers for non-compliance with hours of service. There's a range of penalties for drivers. It could go from $1,000 up to $15,000 for carriers. Drivers can be placed out of service at roadside and forced to take required sleep if they're not in compliance with the regulations. This can impact upon business because, as you can appreciate, someone's goods are actually stopped in transit until they can find a compliant driver to complete the move. Frequent hours of service violations are noted by the regulator. It could generate additional violations, and Looking at statistics from FMCSA, there's a pattern of form and manner violations, drivers operating outside the hours of service regulations, some falsification of logs, not doing proper pre-trip inspections, not signing off documents. So those are some of the more common types of violations that are found. Fleet Complete solution provides a state-of-the-art real-time dashboard. It displays daily limits, it displays work shifts, it displays some of the cycles, it provides alerts to drivers when they're coming close to actual thresholds on maximums. It provides warnings and violations in the case where drivers go outside of the rules. And it also allows drivers to switch their hours and the rules engine when they're traveling in between states. And another very significant undertaking is the fact that the device that we leverage in industry can keep up to 6 months of data, and that is significant in the event a carrier is subject to a regulatory audit. For carriers, they have real-time updates of driver statuses, so as you can appreciate, they know in real life time when drivers are about to get to a certain maximum limit, be it the daily rule or a cycle rule. That can facilitate communication to the driver to find a safe location to stop in a safe area. The AT&T Hours of Service solution provides regular reports. It provides violation summaries of what drivers are doing. And again, the data is available for a period of 6 months. I've worked my DNA in transportation throughout my career. I've worked in various facets of government, private industry. I've been a regulator. I worked as an on-road enforcement officer for several years where I was inspecting commercial motor vehicles. I also worked as a facility auditor where I was inspecting business records of motor carriers at their place of business. I conducted a lot of investigations on behalf of the government. I've written a number of regulations that in fact motor carriers have to comply with today. I've worked in private industry. I worked for probably the largest waste management company in North America, as well as the largest 3PL company in Canada. I've worked as the head of an insurance company that focused on transportation, and I sit on several regulatory bodies for the best interests of transportation.